anything that falls under the purview of what we call the feminine is usually dismissed. So that's the feeling life, the symbolic dimension. Often the body is completely neglected. It is sensitivity itself, vulnerability, that very thing that makes us porous to this otherness. So what happens is when, if we're talking about a conversation between the seen and the unseen, this living bridge, this living conversation, if we remove exactly half of that conversation, we just have a monologue, right? And the effects of that can be enormously strangling. So left to their own devices, those values that we culturally aggrandize, such as wealth and power and status, materiality, is just left to run wild. It doesn't have that guiding influence, the other half of the conversation, which is that nature showing us the way, giving us sense that our place here in the family of things is expected to respond to this larger coherency. So, I won't say too much about the state that we're in, but I think we're all very aware that we're on a dangerous precipice. And I think this all really starts in this great forgetting. And the empowering side of that understanding is that each of us has this gateway to reconnect to our dreaming, to the symbolic and mythic dimension, through the heart. We all have that gateway, so we can all influence the culture that we live in, which is what we're all doing here today. So I think a great part of the alienation that we feel is a kind of felt negligence of that reciprocity. So one of the problems with being a diminished version of ourselves, because if a child grows up in a household or a community which devalues dreaming and the feminine realms, then what happens is you go on to construct a personality in avoidance of those qualities. And so really we become split off from them ourselves. And it makes you much more susceptible to seeking out what the poet John O'Donohue calls false belonging. False belonging. So these are systems of belonging that are established, and we find ourselves wanting to fit into them. So there's a real distinction there between belonging and fitting in. But of course, there's only so long that you can stay in one of those false belongings, where your roots are kind of shallow in the earth. They don't go down deep enough. And you're aware, perhaps on some level, that there are silent contracts, sometimes in a relationship, sometimes in a job, that require you to further compromise yourself. And the more you run away from it or try to distract yourself from it, the louder it gets, right? And at a certain point, the volume gets turned up so much that you might have to do something about it. And if you don't, life will have its way with you. And it's like a strong wind blowing in, which will knock you your roots right out of false belonging. Boom. I call these initiations by exile. The door slams shut, and you find yourself lost. You are no longer where you used to be. You cannot go back. It has closed its doors to you. And you may try to get back, but there is no getting back. And there is no getting forward either. You just kind of have to live in that absence for a while. You know, in all great heroic myths, see to it that the hero or heroine must endure a period of their own exile. And the reason for that is it's only when the way home has been completely lost that you turn back. Yeah? You turn back towards that impulse, that vitality, even in its backwards grace of grief and loss, you are turning back towards it.